Hi everyone, welcome to Carpe Diem Sailing. My name's Marco, I'm a Sail Canada cruising instructor, and in today's video we'll be covering 6 basic knots every sailor should know. Welcome to episode 18, Basic Knots. For helpful show notes and checklists, please visit www.carpediemsailing.com/shownotes. And now, let's get started. Knots are like tools, and just as it's important to use the right tool for a particular task, it's important to use the right knot for various jobs on a boat. We'll start with the figure 8 knot. The figure 8 knot is a stopper knot, most commonly used in the ends of halyards or sheets to prevent the line from running out through a block and up to the top of the mast. To tie the figure 8, lay the line out like this in a bight. So that's the bight right here. Then, holding on to the two ends, give the bight one complete twist. So there's a half twist, there's one full twist, and then you bring the end up through. Let's take a look at that one more time. Lay the line out in a bight, holding onto the two ends, one complete twist of the line, and then bring the end up through. An alternative way is to start by tying an overhand knot. So an overhand knot looks like that, but instead of coming up through the back like this, you come around the front, and there's your figure 8. We'll look at that one more time. So overhand knot around the front and through. So those are the two most common ways of tying a figure 8 knot. I've been tying the figure 8 for the sake of this demonstration with quite a short tail. Ideally, you should tie it with quite a bit of a longer tail, at least long enough to get two hands on it if you need to pull it back. The reef knot, or the square knot, is used to tie the ends of the same line or the same diameter line together. It is most commonly used on a sailboat to tie in the reef points after you've reefed your sail. To tie the reef knot, we take the end of the left line, place it over the end of the right line, and bring it under. And then we do that one more time, except we do it in the opposite. We take the right, put it over the left, and bring it under. What you end up with are these two interlocking loops. Let's look at that one more time. We take the end of the left line, put it over top of the right line, bring it under, and then we take the right line, put it over the left, bring it under. And you end up with the two interlocking loops. For me, I tend to just tie it by looking at it, so I start the same way like that. I don't really pay attention to the left and the right, but I do look at this one or this one. And where it's lying. So in this case, this line is lying like that. I take the end of my right line, I just lie it next to it, side by side, and then I bring this one over and in. And there's my two interlocking loops. However you choose to do it, the main thing is to know what the finished knot looks like so that you can self-correct if you've tied it incorrectly. Most commonly, the reef knot is tied incorrectly because people go left over right, or right over left, and then what kind of looks like a reef knot is actually not, and it's a granny knot. It's lacking that symmetrical quality, and it does slip. One more time, reef knot, square knot, left over right, and under, right over left, and under, and we end up with the two interlocking loops. The clove hitch is used to tie a line around a pole or a spar. It's often used to start decorative knots, and it's used to secure the tiller on a sailboat. It's important to note that once you've tied the clove hitch, that it remains under constant tension. If a clove hitch is not kept under constant tension, it will slip loose, or it may slip loose. To tie the clove hitch, we lay the line over top of the spar or the pole like this, and then bring the end over, in this case on the right-hand side. I cross over, and then staying with the end on the left-hand side now of this standing part, I come back under itself. And there's your clove hitch. So once again, I come over, drop the line over the pole, I come over to the right hand side, or I can come over to the left hand side. Once I cross over, I stay on that side. So in this case, I went from left to right of the standing part. I come back and feed this line back under itself in one continuous loop. Let's look at that one last time. Drop the line over the pole. In this case, I'm going to come over from the right. I cross over, staying on the left-hand side of the standing part. I finish the knot by bringing it up and under itself. Remember, it does have to stay under constant tension for it to hold. The clove hitch. The round turn and 2 half hitches is a mooring knot. It's also used to tie fenders off of lifelines. So to tie the round turn and 2 half hitches, we go 1.5 times around like this. That's your round turn right there. And then we do the half hitches underneath. So we lay the line over top like this, so it looks a bit like a 4, in this case a reverse 4, and then that line comes back through underneath like that, and it comes down. Do that one more time underneath, come around, and tie it off. So let's try that one more time. I'm going to give that one a little bit more of a longer tail. So 1.5 times around the pole, like that, and then we lay the line over top, bring it under, lay the line over top, bring it under. You'll notice that the loops are now somewhat symmetrical looking, and if you look closely, you'll notice that that is actually a clove hitch around the standing part of the line. If you don't tie it the same way both times, the hitches that is, if you don't tie the half hitches the same way, so over top and under, over top and under like that, what you end up with is something that looks like this. And you can see that that's not a clove hitch, and the lines are not actually locking together, or the loops are not locking together, the half hitches. They're kind of flipping apart from each other. So make sure that when you do tie it, you either go under and through both times, or over and through both times, so that it actually ends up with that secure locking clove hitch on the standing part. I'll do that one more time so you can see it more clearly. So over, and one more time. And then when I actually tighten that, the clove hitch slides up and snugs up against the round turn. The sheet bend is used to tie 2 lines of different diameter together, like these 2 right here. The way to tie the sheet bend is you make a bite in the thicker line, and then you bring this end up through like that, and you lay it over top. That's your single sheet bend. I'll go through that again with some tips on how to do that. So bite in the bigger, thicker of the 2 lines, and then I hold onto it like this, and I have my finger extended. I bring the thin line up like that, and then over my finger. Now what I do is I reach between the thin line and the thick line, and I pull the thin line back through, and then I feed it along my finger like a needle, like that, and lay the thin line on top of the thick line like that. That's a single sheet bend. Now you notice these 2 lines are on the same side. So for years, I wasn't aware that you could actually tie a sheet bend incorrectly. And so if you don't pay attention to your bite and which way it goes, you'll see that right now the 2 ends are in opposite directions. Now Ashley's Book of Knots, the world's leading authority on knots, calls that a left-hand sheet bend and calls it unreliable. So to tie a sheet bend correctly, make sure that the 2 ends are on the same side of the knot. So that's a single sheet bend. Now if I want to double that up, I simply take the end and I come around and feed it back through again. All right, so just one more time. Create a bite, a bend, have your finger extended up through, over your finger, between the thin line and the thick line, and then like a needle, feed that straight along like that, so that the thin line sits on top of the thick line, and then to double it up, simply bring it around one more time. And I'll have a link to that Ashley's Book of Knots in the description below if anybody's interested. It's an amazing coffee table book. And finally, we have the bowline, arguably the most useful knot on a sailboat. It's used to tie a loop that once completed will not slip. So what I mean by that is once the bowline is tied, that this part of the loop here will not form a noose. It won't be like a slip knot. So that will actually, that loop will hold its shape. It's most commonly used to tie the ends of the sheets into the clew of a sail. And traditionally, it's been taught by telling a little story. We have a hole, we have a tree right here, and we have a bunny. And the bunny sticks his head up out of the hole, runs around the tree, and back into the hole. The benefit to the bowline is that under reasonable tensions, no matter how hard you make this, how tight you make this, on a sailboat, it's easily untied. So if you were to take a round turn in 2 half hitches and try to tie the sheets into the clew of a sail, you'd have a hard time untying it. So once more, the bunny goes up, through, and around, and back. So I'm going to go through those steps one more time, and then I'll show you a different way to tie it. So to create your tree, you make a counterclockwise overhand loop like that. Then I extend my finger and hold the standing part of the line up right there. So this is my hole, that's my tree, and that's my bunny. So the bunny comes up out of the hole, around the back of the tree, and back into the hole. And then you tighten it up. So again, the benefits are this loop here won't slip, and it's easily untied after it's been put under a load. Now, another method that is a bit, I find more practical, is what they call the 2-finger method. So for the 2-finger method, what I do is I hold the end of the line like this between my 2 fingers with my thumb holding it in place like that, if you can see that. And I'm going to come across and I cross it, and I'm going to hold the 2 lines, so the standing line and the standing part of the line and the end of the line like that. So you can see how I'm holding it like this. So what I do is I take that and then I just flip it over. And so I make a flip of the wrist, and what that does is it actually creates the little hole. So by flipping that up, I have this counterclockwise overhand loop right there. Okay, so I go like that, flip it over, and now the line is ready to go around the tree and back into the hole. When tying the line around something, some people have trouble if they've learned the traditional method of the bunny and the tree in the hole. And so what happens is that what I recommend is that you make your hole first, take the end of the line, run it through the clew or whatever it is you're going to tie it through, and then carry on with your knot. So however you choose to tie it, whether the traditional method or the 2-finger method, there are others as well. In different books you will find different methods. Find one that works for you and go with it. The bowline. See you next time when I talk about collision regulations and introduce an easy way for recreational boaters to follow the rules of the road. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I wish you all fair winds and following seas.